So, a couple of weeks ago, I made a bit of a promise. I said I'd be playing Turbo Mill, because after looking at, there was a Pat Chapin article about a month ago about a bunch of different decks that featured new Magic Origins cards, and Turbo Mill was there. It was definitely one of the linear decks of the format I haven't played yet in Modern, and I was just kind of like, yeah, let's do this. And I kind of got distracted by a bunch of different decks that did well at different events and kind of shined. But here we are, Turbo Mill. So I looked at Pat's list and kind of wanted to put a comparison, but there aren't a lot of lists out there because people just don't play Turbo Mill for some reason. I don't know what it is. Realistically, I have lost this deck the last, I think, two times I've played against it, but one of them I think involved my opponent playing 5 Archive Traps turn one of the entire match. So it's pretty absurd. Um, yeah, so I went back and I found a list from an old IQ back in around May that I kind of liked. And I kind of filled with the sideboard a little bit, but the main deck looked reasonably solid. And this is where I'm at. So you've got cantrips. Visions is awesome. I mean, one mana draw three, obviously great. And then we'll get to this in a minute. I've got this deck laid out in cantrips, utility, and burn spells, mill spells. So cantrips, just Serum Visions. You're trying to assemble a bunch of cards that mill them out. Great. Serum Visions is great. This is a draw three. Great. Crypt Incursion is your interaction against aggressive decks. You just gain a bunch of life. You don't die. You kill them. Surgical is your anti-combo tool. These are the cards that mill them the most. Less Mind Funerals, because that card's a little unreliable. Some Mind Sculpts, Archive Traps, Hedron Crabs, all this great stuff. I think I probably want to add like another fetch land or two to the deck before I start playing it. Now that I mentioned Hedron Crab, I was just going off of this stockish mana base, but I can fix that real fast here. Probably want like 6, 7. I don't really want to take too much damage off my lands, but for example, like the list I did base this off a list that had I'd rather have another Mire because I think I want to fetch Watery Grave a decent amount of the time. Uh, is that the right way to do it? That's not the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it. That's fine. There we go. Anyways, the list I based this off of actually looked kind of budgety with, I think it was missing a Polluted Delta at the time, but that could also be a reporting issue. So yeah, ton of mill spells, every single one in the book. This is a burn deck. You're just burning their library instead of their life total. And then Snapcaster Mage. And this is the reason I kind of like this list over the one Pat posted in a lot of the traditional lists, is because they have Mesmeric Orb, which is a repeatable damage source in the sense that, you get to mill them over and over with it. But I think that having a card that can get Abrupt Decayed or Kolaghan's commanded at no value is kind of a liability. So I didn't really want to go down that road. So, I mean, Hedron Crab you can usually get 3 to 6 cards out of even if they kill it, so that's fine. Actually, as I'm thinking about this, you can see me evolving the deck. I'm going to want orbs in the sideboard instead of these Mind Funerals for non-interactive matchups, I think. So I think that Snapcaster does a really good job in this deck of being another mill spell, somewhat interacting, and then also drawing you cards if you need to do that. So I'm pretty impressed with it, I think. Not a ton of lands. You are a Serum Vision Snapcaster deck. You can cheat a little bit on this count. I went up to 7 fetches right here for the Hedron Crabs. Ghost Quarter has some good synergy with Archive Trap and Hedron Crab. Not too many Shell Docks coming to play tap kind of sucks, even though is a spell land. Drowned Catacombs over Watery Graves because you do actually care about your life total or something. And I think they're better than Darkflake Shores in your 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Swamp Island deck. 2 Water Graves, it's like pretty stock, right? You have your like fetch blue-black mana base. You don't just want one because sometimes you want to fetch the second. Like you have the Mire, you need to fetch a blue source. Um, in your minimal pain combo deck, 2 is pretty stock. Storm also plays 2. Steam Vents, Storm back in the day in Legacy when I built it at Post Mystical Tutor Ban had 2 Underground Seas. It's just like a pretty stock number if you're trying to minimize the impact of having to fetch a duel. There's really not a lot of talked about this main deck. It's just cards that mill them and cards that draw you cards that mill them or discard. So, moving along to the sideboard, a few things I want to point out about the deck. So, one thing, this deck is very, very soft to Leyline of Sanctity. I don't actually think you can win through it game 1. But post-board, you have some tools. So there were Ratchet Bombs in this deck, and I was going to replace them with Engineered Explosives. And then I realized this is actually one of the only blue-black ways to kill Leyline of Sanctity, which seems very important for this deck, just having out. This is, faster as an anti-aggro card than some of the other options. Like your Damnation is going to come down a little bit late sometimes, whereas this card can sweep away Goblin Guides pretty efficiently. It's just, the best thing at doing what it does because it also doubles up on that anti-leyline, anti-other enchantment slot, which I just really like. I have, there were originally some Ashioks and some Mind Funerals as more non-interactive cards, but I think I like Mesmeric Orb a little better. Don't really like Ashiok a lot. Not really sure what you're trying to accomplish with it, but I do like Mesmeric Orb. I think that getting around Leyline with this card is pretty good, and I think that does more mill than Ashiok in a lot of cases. But I could be wrong. I'll see after playing it. I really like the idea of this Knight of Souls Betrayal to lock out like Affinity and Infect, and like a lot of different decks just kind of get locked by this. I'm more excited about that than Damnation. Spellskite is a great magic card against the decks that you want to Spellskite. You have more Graveyard Hate against the decks that you're going to be filling up their graveyard for. Though I think that this might be enough. I kind of want to add some counter spells. I think that the best card for me to add is Negate. Yeah, Negate. I do like how there's only been 2 arts of this card. I think Cage is better than Relic because I actually care about stopping company, I think, or any kind of tutor effect. And let's see. 4 Surgical, 4 Crypt Incursion has to be enough Graveyard Hate, right? So I'm going to give this deck a little spin, as is. If it turns out to be good, we're going to get a little more in depth with it. If it turns out to be horrible, I'm immediately abandoning it, and you guys get to watch how hilarious it is to lose with the deck. So, either way, it should be a blast. I will note one thing. I did cut Sphinx's Tutelage specifically from the Patch Haven list. Again, Abrupt Decay, not something I want to be messing around with. I just want to get them with mill cards. It's like Burn, but with blue cards.